What's good? What's good? It's the one and only, but what do I know? Boxing coming back at y'all with another one, man. So we got Errol Spence in the news, man. Errol Spence and Fundora. It looks like it's I know we keep talking about this, and I know fans are kind of like, bro, when is he gonna fight? It looks like it's gonna be headed towards spring of 2025. Listen, bro, I know that we're kind of getting fed up with how the PBC is operating and how they're moving their fighters or whatnot, but I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it real quick, man. And then I was also gonna get into the article, man. The article is pretty much covering Errol Spence and Fundora. Matter of fact, no, I'm gonna go ahead and get into the article first, and then let me go ahead and drop my opinion about this, because I'm a huge fan of Errol Spence, but I'm just not liking how things are going, man. And I don't know what the future holds for these fighters. So shout out to Boxing News 24/7 says, can Spence conquer Fundora? All right, it says former unified welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. is expected to return from his long layoff in early 2025 on a challenge WBC and WBO junior middleweight champion Sebastian the Towering Inferno Fundora, who has a record of 21-1 with 13 knockouts for one or both of his titles. The fight has yet to be announced by PBC, but it's expected soon. It will be a tough fight for Spence to move up to 154 and take on the much younger 26-year-old Fundora, who has a huge height and reach advantage over him. The 6'5" and 3/4 Fundora has wins over Tim Tszyu, Erickson Lubin, and Carlos Ocampos. His height and youth could be a nightmare for Spence, who looked shot in his loss to Crawford. Given Spence's layoff and recent performances, it's not likely it would end well for him against Sebastian Fundora. It's unclear whether Errol's motivation for taking the fight without a tune-up is just for money or what. It could just be for a cash out for Spence to get one of his last paydays before retiring. Spence, who has a record of 28-1 with 22 knockouts, hasn't fought in 16 months, 3 weeks since his 9th round knockout loss to Terrence Crawford on July 29, 2023. And it would be a bad look on the WBC and WBO's part to allow Spence to fight for their belt coming off a long layoff and a brutal knockout. If the Fundora Spence fight does occur in the first quarter of 2025, it will be interesting to see how Spence looks. He has repeated long layoffs since 2020, fighting only 3 times in 4 years. His last 2 performances against Crawford and Ugas were lackluster. That's cap. Okay, that's cap. His fight against Ugas was definitely not lackluster. It was actually really good. Especially coming off of the Danny Garcia, like where he dominated, but it wasn't like the Spence that we knew. Then he came and fought Ugas. So this is cap. Whoever wrote this that's definitely cap. But anyways, that's not surprising given the injuries from 2019 car crash in Dallas, Texas, weight problems, and natural aging. Like a lot of fighters that make millions, the motivation to keep busy drop-offs and spend less and less time in the rings. If Spence had shown some initiative, he could have come back and beaten 1 or 2 of the top contenders at junior middleweight. Spence is ranked number 1 with the WBC, not at all with the WBO. They'll have to agree to allow Errol to fight for their belt. If not, so what they're saying is because he's not ranked in the WBO organization, they would have to get permission, because normally they wouldn't let that slide. The WBO might let that slide. The IBF wouldn't though. But they'll have to agree to allow Errol to fight for his belt. Now, the only time, if Errol would have vacated the titles and moved up, then he would have been number 1 mandatory for the WBO. But he didn't do that, obviously. But they'll have to agree to allow Errol to fight for their belt. If not, it could fall vacant, likely resulting in a WBO interim champion Crawford being moved up to a full belt champ. That might not be a good thing for the WBO, because it's questionable whether Crawford will ever fight again at 154. He's dialed in for the Canelo fight. So, all right, man, let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, I'm gonna, of course, give you my honest opinion, man. First and foremost, man, I've done videos about this before, and I wanted to do a video with this because I didn't see nobody talking about it. I want Errol's name to be somewhat circulating, but I don't like this idea. I don't like this move from Errol Spence. I don't like what the PBC is doing with his career. And I understand that part of it is not the PBC's fault. Errol got into a terrible car accident, which left him out of the ring for a year. That took a year out of his career. That was on, Errol. God bless him. Thankfully, he's okay. Thankfully he's okay or whatnot. So that took a year off, right? Then let me see. What did he fought? Because he fought Sean Porter September of 19, and then came back and fought Danny December of 20, and then he was supposed to fight Pacquiao August of 21, right? But then he got injured, so that's not on the PBC's fault. That's not the PBC's fault, right? He got injured. He got injured or whatnot with the detached retina. August 21, so he ended up fighting Ugas, who beat Manny Pacquiao. And I don't care what that article said, that was a great performance by Errol Spence. He ended up beating Ugas. I think they had like a crowd of like 48,000 people, 38 or 48,000 people. I thought that was very impressive, seeing how Ugas is not really known in America. So that was all due to Errol. So I definitely thought that was impressive. And he stopped Ugas, and then from March of 22, he didn't fight again until July of 23. That was the PBC fault, and he's been inactive since. I understand him taking the rest of 23 off, right? The rest of 2023. I understand you taking the rest of that year off. With the type of I'm not being funny when I say this, but with the type of beating that Errol took from Terrence Crawford, I can understand him sitting out for the rest of the year, But I definitely wasn't expecting him to be out the whole year of 2024. And, I was talking to one of my close bros, and he was telling me how he feels like Errol Spence is more so the reason why he doesn't want to do tune-ups, because where his body at, he's not ever going to be what he once was. And in his mindset, it's like, if I'm a lose, I would rather lose to a top guy than to lose to a guy that's not supposed to be on my level. And I don't know, and that could be true. I'm not knocking that. That could be true. I'm not gonna take away from that. But what I am gonna say is, I don't like the way Errol Spence is moving with his career. I just don't. You got a lot of YouTubers that will just accept any and everything the PBC will do or give them, and I don't agree with that at all. I agree with speaking the truth and speaking what's right and what's wrong. You know what I'm saying? And I was always a huge supporter of the PBC. Before the PBC was the PBC, when Al Heyman was without. Actually, first of all, I probably knew about Al Heyman before any of your favorite YouTubers knew about him. Seeing how Jermaine Taylor, was it Randall Bailey? Was Randall Bailey no, it wasn't Randall Bailey. But I know Jermaine Taylor got with him a lot, like in 2006 or 2007. Jermaine Taylor and Andre Berto. And I knew about him then or whatnot. And so I've been supporting him a lot. But I'm just not a fan of this, man. Of what I'm gonna call out. If I don't agree with something, I'm gonna call it out. Now I don't like what's going on with Errol Spence. Him taking these long layoffs and then coming back to trying to fight a guy like Sebastian Fundora, who in Errol Spence in the peak of Errol Spence's career in his prime, I think Errol Spence would have dominated Sebastian Fundora, because Sebastian Fundora, though he doesn't fight like a tall fighter, he also is not really a good inside fighter to me. He gets touched up very easily. He's very hard to defend himself. Doesn't bend his legs enough. Well, but at the same time doesn't fight like a. He just it's a lot of things that Sebastian Fundora does wrong. I feel like Errol Spence in his prime would have chopped a tree down. But the problem is Errol Spence doesn't seem like he's in his prime anymore. And that's where that's where we seem to have worries for Errol Spence. And it'd be one thing, like, coming off of a fight with Terrence Crawford, like, it's so much that we don't know, right? We don't know if Errol Spence is the same. We don't know if the weight had any impact on that fight. We don't know if we don't know what the situation may be, because we don't. That's what tune-ups are for. Tune-ups are the point of a tune-up fight is to tell us where you are in your career, how good you really are. And we don't know, because Errol Spence has not had any tune-ups. I mean, that's cool, but it's not safe. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully PBC can get something moving where these guys are fighting twice a year again. But I don't know. It looks like it's going downhill from there, or uphill, should I say? Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. But what do I know?